Hi everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. Today we're going to start laying some of the dash electrical stuff into our dually. Let's get started. First thing that's very important with stuff like this is to have a plan. So here is the schematic that I've drawn up for laying all this stuff in. So hopefully it'll go smoothly and everything should work the first time. But you never know. I always manage to screw something up. This is the little fuse box that I had bought to use for this project. But in the end, I went back to this painless wiring one that, if you'll remember way back, this was actually mounted under the hood of the truck when we got it. And now it's going to be mounted inside. I've got this little bracket here, and it mounts to the underside of the steering column with this clamp. There's so little space in these newer vehicles to be adding stuff, but yeah, we found the space, so we're going to use it. Here's some of our supplies that we're going to be needing for this job. We've got various plugs and connectors, a couple circuit breakers, some switches and wires and stuff. We're also going to be adding the lighted sun visors from later. I think those came along in 04, maybe 05. I got a pair, so if I can get them cleaned up, we'll put them in. This fuse box has two sections. This here is battery. It's just fed directly from the battery. And this side of it here is the accessory or ignition side. It's once you turn the ignition on, this relay picks up and sends power to this side of the fuse box. So that's what we need, a two-sided fuse panel. We're not using this relay presently, so that'll just stay as an open point. If we install something later that needs a relay, maybe if we put an exhaust brake in or something, I'm not sure, but we've got a place for a relay. Also, what I've done, I cut this thing had long, like 4-foot leads on it, so you could run the feeds to wherever you want it. But I want this to be removable, so I can pull it out if I got to take the steering column out, or if we want to take the dash out. This is all going to be, everything is going to be, all the circuitry that we add is going to have plugs, so that the vehicle is still serviceable. And this here is where our feed will come in. It's an isolated an insulated power stud. Our feed will come into here, and this one here is a ground stud directly to chassis ground. So here you can see we've removed the bolster pad and this crossbar from there, and you can see there the fuse box attached to the bottom of the steering column. Fits perfectly. And then here's our two plugs that come out, and our harness can go up through the dash. First thing I'm going to do is get the stuff up here laid in. I need a little harness for my lighted sun visors that goes up in here. There's also the feed wire for the dash cam. It's got to go up in there. And oh, there goes the alarm. And we're going to mount a couple of switches in the overhead console for the lights on the headache rack. So we have to run a little harness up into there. Here's our little harnesses there. They're all going to go in and run down the left windshield post. Now we're going to work on this thing. First thing we're going to do is pop these out. These are your map lights. And we're going to replace these with LED bulbs. I just ordered them. If you live somewhere where it's really sunny and really hot, this may not go so well for you, and I'll show you why. It's a pretty common problem on these Rams where it's hot, that when you try to get these things out, they just all break and everybody's driving around with no lenses. Anyway, it's a really crappy design, but this is how they come out. Let me get this side out and I'll show you what I mean. See, all they rely on is those things that grab onto those little pins. And where it's really, really hot, the sun just destroys these, and as soon as you touch them, they disintegrate. But up here in the frozen Great White North, we can usually get them in and out. See, so we'll clean the insides of those, and we'll wait for our LED bulbs to show up. I already swapped that one out for an LED. That's a number 579 bulb, and the ones in this are number 578s if you're looking to buy some. So here's where we're going to put our switches, and they're about the same size as this washer, and we have to punch a 3/4 inch hole through it for each one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these washers, and I'm going to use a transfer punch here to mark where the hole needs to be. I got my pilot holes in, and we're going to take it up to 3/4 of an inch with a step bit. And you can see there on this one, 3/4 is the third from last step. Once we've got our holes made, we have to cut a key on one side, because these being round switches, they would tend to walk around in there. So they have a key. You can see the key there on the side of it. So you just file a little keyway for it, and we can pop it in. I've still got a bit of a burr there I need to address on both sides. Now I've got all our wires in. We can go ahead and start getting all this stuff put back in. We're going to start with the sun visors, and we'll finish off with the overhead console. Lighted sun visors work. I've just got them hooked up to battery temporarily, but I wanted to make sure they work before I close everything up. Now we're going to make sure that the pilot lights on our rocker switches up there work. Well, let's see if we've accomplished anything. I've got our switches. I've got everything buttoned up. This is simulated load, and there's our connections there, just temporary. Let's see what happens. Well, that's promising, and our load is on. Good. And our load is on. Perfect. I've got all the wires now secured coming down the post, and I've reinstalled. This is the wiring for the exhaust temperature gauge. That's going to sit here. Now here's the ends of all that stuff coming down from the roof. I've got this. This is the chassis wire. So this goes all the way to the back. This is for the reverse beeper, the trailer hitch lights, and the two lamps, the work lamps up on the headache rack, and the beacon. Now we could start making our final connections on some of this stuff. So what I've done here, I've got my diagram, and this is actually a photocopy of it. So what I do, each wire, is I finish my connections, and I don't have to deal with that conductor anymore. I trace over it in red. So I know these four, this is the stuff coming from the back of the truck that I was just showing you under the steering column. So that's done. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to hook up these red ones. These go up to the headache rack. They're in that harness that comes down the windshield post. Also, you can see here I've made a couple of changes as I go along. And once I'm all done everything, I will redo this diagram so it's accurate. The LED bulbs for our dome lights came in, and man, they look nice. It's just a nice, like a pure white light, not that yellowy, ugly light like you get on these things, you know. I went ahead and got this all put back together, the door post, our exhaust temperature gauge, and I remembered that somewhere down the line I may want to put an exhaust brake in this thing, so I thought there's a nice place to put the switch for it. I did manage to screw that up because I got it on the wrong angle, but that doesn't matter. We can deal with that later. The switch is there for now. Now what I'm going to do is start laying in the wiring for our air system. So this guy is going to sit kind of around here, and that's the main pressure gauge and the on-off switch for the compressor itself. So I've ran an air line. That's the air line that goes down to the tank in the back to sense the marinara line pressure, and it's got to have kind of enough so that we can. Sorry, it's got to have kind of enough line there so that when we want to pull the dash out, we can get it out. So that there seems about right. Yay, my circuit breaker finally came in. Up until now, I've just been using a jumper wire to power up our little auxiliary fuse box in the truck. But now we've got, this is a 30 amp circuit breaker. And it's plumbed into basically the battery cable. This is an extension of the cable there. Rather than adding everything onto here, I just put it on that stud there. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. All right, we fired up the stuff on our headache rack and it's working great. I also went ahead and ordered a pair of LED seal beams for the work lights up there. You can see there the one on the left, I've already put the LED in it, and the one on the right still has an incandescent bulb. What a difference. We'll get that changed right away. Well, there's that part of it all done. That's awesome. Moving right along, we've got the wiring for all this lower stuff and the master switch for the air compressor. That's all done. Now we're going to move over to the center stack here. The first thing I need to do is I need to tap somewhere into an ignition / accessory feed to run our accessory relay under the steering column. So I did that at the radio. I've got the radio out because we're going to be swapping this to an RB1 navigation radio just to try it to see if we like it or not. So we've tapped into here, brown with a red tracer. That's your ignition accessory feed. So we've tapped into that. I used one of these goofy things. I'm not generally a fan of these, but in some situation, they're just what the doctor ordered. And for what I'm doing here, it's just fine. And then we'll drop this feed down into here, and it'll go into my little sub harness. We're going to have 2 switches here, and it'll just follow, make its way out through the dash with that sub harness. So I'm going to get the radio in now. As part of this RB1 radio, there's a navigation antenna that you have to find somewhere to put. So I just pop this panel out, and right about there's a little pocket where it just fit in quite nicely. So that's in there. If I like the RB1 and it's going to stay when I redo the dash, I'll leave the antenna in that spot, but I'll stick it in there with some double-sided tape. Right now, it's just kind of free floating. You can see here the 2 head units. This one is the original one, AM/FM CD cassette, and this is the RB1 navigation with a single CD. Although when you've got the nav CD in there, it's a CD-based navigation. So when the navigation CD is in there, you can't listen to a CD. You have to listen to the radio. But these things are apparently they're Sirius ready, so I can attach. Apparently, if I have the right receiver and everything, I can run my satellite radio off of this. I'm not sure if we'll go that route, but time will tell. Well, let's see if this thing will work. This truck has the Infinity Sound, so it's got an amplifier. And you have to be careful mixing and matching these things because they're not all made to work with the amp. But we'll see. Okay, let's see what this thing does. On. Well, it plays music. Wonder where the display is. Huh? Very interesting. Oh, there we go. Okay, so the screen is there. I think my friend that I got this off, he did tell me the first few times you turn it on, it's going to go haywire. until it starts acting normal. So anyway, we'll try it for a little bit, and if we don't like it, we can always put our original radio back in. Well, isn't that a mess? Anyway, I've got all of my conductors brought back over to this area here, and the next job will be to make our final connections for everything and test it all out. Well, we're picking away and getting a lot of these wires turned red. We'll just keep working at it one by one by one, and eventually we'll have it all done. Well, I've got everything hooked up now. Let's see what works and what doesn't work. Hopefully everything works. We'll start and see if our hood light works. Oh, look at that. Let's make sure it turns off, eh? Yeah, there, good, perfect. Now, next thing on that same circuit, we're going to check our sun visor lamps, because I just had to have lighted sun visors. Yeah, there's that one. Let's check the other side. Yeah, and I read up, you can put LEDs in those. So we'll, that's a job for down the road, but we'll get to it. Now we'll double check the headache rack. Yep, I'd say that's working. Next, we're going to check the illumination in these guys and this guy. There you go. There we go. Do they dim? Yeah, good. Now I'm going to check my trailer hitch lights. They should be on now. Yep, I'd say they're on. Next things we're going to check, we're going to need the ignition on. So we'll just roll it back to accessory. There we go. Okay, there's the radio lit up. And we should be able to put the air compressor on. We have a leak. Let me have a look at that. There we go. The leak is fixed and the gauge is going up. So once the compressor shuts off, then we're going to try and inflate our airbags. All right, now we should be able to blow up the airbags. Let's see. Sorry, I had another leak. Those push connectors are terrible. Look, this one's gone right down to nothing again. There, no leak now. I probably should have got a larger air tank for this, but you know what? For what I'll ever do with it, this is fine. There, we got them up to 40 PSI. Now we'll let them back down. We'll leave about 10 in them. Now, theoretically, if I put that switch on and then put her in reverse, I should get a backup beeper. Let's see what happens. Well, it was supposed to. Let's go up back and see if the backup lights are on. Pardon me. So I've got the key in accessory right now. I kind of think it needs to be in ignition for this to happen. So let me go back in and try that. All right, it's the ignition is on and the backup lights are on now. So let me go in and flick that switch and see if our beeper beeps. There. Jolly good. The only thing that doesn't seem to work is the dash cam. I'm going to have to fiddle around with that. All right, let's try this now. I found a bad connection under there, so. Oh, there you go. Looks like the dash cam's coming to life. Perfect. And it's recording. Yeah. Yeah. This is a neat dash cam. It's got two views. It's got a close-up and a long range. Pretty neat. Now we can put this dash all back together. Here's our dash all back together. It's looking pretty good. I'll show you a couple little things I did. You can see here, here's the main air pressure gauge and the on-off switch for it. That's our backup beeper and our hitch lights. It all went together pretty nicely. This is the control panel for the airbags down here. I also, the ashtray was here. So I took the door off, cut the door out, mounted my brake controller inside there. So it's just the end of it sticking out. Originally it was over here on the knee bolster. And I don't like having to grab for that with my left hand if I need to. If I got to all of a sudden grab the spike on this thing, I can grab it with my right index finger. So that's why I decided to put that there. And it leaves me a little bit of a cubby underneath it. This is a little bit sloppy, the cutout in the old ashtray door. I got to go to the wreckers and grab another one. And now that I've got this one, we'll kind of use that as a template and cut one out more nicely. Now we can go ahead and install the little floor console in it. I gotta say, that looks pretty darn good. So, that is our dash. All done. Thank goodness, man. That was a lot of work. Last thing I gotta do is find a place. I would still like to mount my little CB in here, but I want to wait until I've got the seats and the beer box and everything all back in and find the perfect place for it. That all went perfectly. I'm very happy. Everything's in, everything's working, and the dash is all back together. In the next video, we're going to start. There's still a couple of things I have to do inside, and we're going to get everything all cleaned up, get the seats fixed up, and get it all put back together. I'd like to thank you right now for tuning into our channel and continuing to support us. Hope you'll come back and see us again. And until then, I'm Kevin. So long from the Claremont Classic Garage.